Morning, everybody, and got a real treat for you guys today. You don't have to listen to me, so I got a better speaker for you than me today. So Tricia Thomas and her staff were nice enough to schedule this regarding the MLS. I was fortunate enough to be asked to serve on a broker panel, I think it was a couple weeks ago, to discuss the MLS, and it's nice when you get to serve on those panels, but after the meeting was over, Tricia reached out to me and wanted to know if she could talk to the agents, which I was obviously very, very happy that she reached out, and feel very fortunate that she's willing to talk to all you guys, because you guys are the ones that are in the trenches. This is where the rubber meets the road, and MLS is pretty much the lifeblood of what we do. So I'm going to let Tricia bring you up to speed on what's happening on the MLS, and then I think she's going to probably want to open it up for questions from you guys on, hey, how can they better serve you? What can they do? What is it? What's your wants and needs here? What do you need out of the MLS? So without further ado, Tricia, take it away.
Thank you. I recognize a lot of names and faces from the Legacy office. Bill, as a past president of Bay East, has always been really actively involved in leadership and supporting his agents who are also actively involved. So we've got members of the board of directors, current leadership, past leadership. So Bill, thank you. I appreciate the support and the time that you have given to the association, but particularly to our fundamental mission, which is to help members be successful as real estate professionals. One of the things that is really important to Bay East is our culture. And one of our foundations of our culture is to listen to our members and then to act. So we don't want to just pay lip service. We want to actually hear what you're saying, take it back, and then do something with it that will help move the needle for you in your own real estate professions and careers. So we've embarked on a listening tour. This is about the time of the year when we start to gather data for strategic thinking. That information goes to a pretty high level group of current leadership who take a look at what the trends are, what your needs are, because they change as those industry trends change. Sheila is actually the chair of the strategic thinking group as our president-elect. And something that is very important to her is hearing the members' voice. So we've begun this listening tour. We started with a couple of categories. The largest brokers was one. We had a panel that we did for not just Bay East and our board of directors, but also for Contra Costa. And Bill was one of 6 panelists who was chosen because of his knowledge of the industry. And one of the things that he's asked me to do is share some of that background, not background, but share some of the discussion that was had at the big broker level, so that you kind of get an insight too. And I think what you're going to find is that a lot of what the brokers want from a leadership level is also what the agents want. Before I go too much further, though, I do want to introduce 2 people. So I've already introduced your 2 leaders, Tina and Sheila, but I want to introduce 2 MLS experts who I hope are familiar to you, because I know that they have done tons of training, office training. Roya Chaudhry, thank you, Roya, our MLS director. And Jessie, who was the supervisor in member support, so she's answered many of your calls and worked with our member support team, is now working directly with Roya. So we have 2 industry leaders and industry experts. They will fill in the blanks, and they will be able to answer some specific questions, but most importantly, they are here to listen. So we're not here to tell you how things should be. We want to tell you what we're working on, and really do want this to be as interactive as possible. So I'm thinking, Bill and Judy, do you want people to post questions in the chat box? I know that Roya and Jessie will be taking notes, and we can get to that. later. So does that work for you for this format, Bill? Or are you going to unmute them?
Yeah, that would be great. I think that would be great.
Okay, so as we go along, please start posting your questions in chat, and we'll get to that at the end of my presentation, which will be short. So I think, Judy, do you have my presentation? Thank you. So are you driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just go next and we can advance to the next slide. Sorry, can we go back one second? Thank you. I feel like I'm in a car without a steering wheel or a stick shift. It's a real weird feeling here, not being in control. So what did we hear recently in the broker panel? It's that the brokers want one MLS in Northern California. And the sad thing about hearing that is that brokers and agents have been saying this for at least the last 20 years. And we don't have it yet. So why don't we have it yet, and how are we moving in a direction that would meet members' needs? If we go to the next slide, please. We started the migration to getting to a point where we have a one MLS experience. We started in 2006, actually, when we joined something called the Quattro Group, and that was Metrolist, Berry's MLS, which is the North Bay, and San Francisco. And we entered into an agreement with them, as well as MLS listings, to enable agents to single sign on into their home MLS system, and then from there they could jump to the other MLSs. But what that meant was that you didn't have the data in one place. So you were working on disparate systems, sometimes had a completely different look and feel. There was the Paragon system, the Rapatoni system, the Matrix system. MLS listings had a legacy system as well. So it was not a great user experience, but it did give you access. And what it did was it helped build the foundation and the blocks for trust between the MLSs, which had not existed in the past. We all, in the dark ages, competed against each other for membership. We did not share data with each other. So 2006 was sort of the beginning of this getting to that one MLS experience journey. In I think it must be 3 years, so maybe 2017-ish, we began talking about what does it look like if we can bring all the data from all the MLSs into the home MLS system, so into the Paragon system. Roya was instrumental in helping move this forward with our neighboring MLSs. Jessie, I think, is the queen of QA testing to make sure that everything worked well, but it is an incredibly complicated procedure. And when I get to the end of the slides, I'm going to show you just some of the steps that we're still working on to make this happen. But in January of 2020, we were able to integrate all of the MLS listing data from Metrolist, Berry, San Francisco, MLS listings, and of course it already had the East Bay in there. So that was another step toward creating that one MLS experience. We knew along the way that it was going to be bumpy. We lobbied heavily with our neighboring MLSs to permit that single sign-on to continue to exist until we had worked out all the bugs. But the majority of the other MLSs did not want to permit that. So I know for some of you who were used to being able to go into a neighboring MLS and search that system, it was kind of a frustrating experience because not everything was there for you, but we are getting there. We are getting there. So all of the data from these seven MLSs now reside in your home Paragon system. Next, please. Thank you. What are the areas that covers? It's 23 counties. So all of the areas that you see in this nice colorful map. But next slide, please. What's the next thing? It's logical that if you have access to all of these counties, why won't your key work in all of those counties? And this is a tougher nut to crack. The board of directors, the Bay East board of directors, at least 2 or 3 years ago, approved a motion that that directed us to work toward getting the neighboring MLSs, and that would be Metrolist and Berries, to reciprocate on their key access code, so that you would not have to take your keys over to those areas and get them co-opt with those codes. The bad news is it hasn't happened, and I don't see it happening in the short term. The good news is that at least we are still talking about it. I think Bay East is probably the most vocal in pushing for this. Your board of directors is in support of it, has been for years, and we will continue to push this snowball up the hill. We've made a little bit of progress, but I am not going to be overly optimistic that it's going to happen in 2021. But I can promise you it is something that is high on our priority list, and we will continue to push it. Next, please. So these are the areas that your key box works. I'm pretty sure you already know because you're showing properties down in those areas. Next, please. And that's the geographic areas that they don't work. So that would be Metrolist and Berries primarily. Next, please. So now that we've got all the data in the MLS, what are the other things that you need? You want the MLS member benefit products that we offer to you to have all of the data from all of the MLSs in those products as well. Or you expect that the products that you have would be the same kind of products that the other MLSs have. So it's frustrating when we launch a new product such as Showing Time, and you are dealing with agents who are not in the Paragon environment, and they do not have Showing Time, or they don't have Disclosures IO. It is not an efficient way to do business. We continue to push for expanding reciprocal access in third-party platforms that we offer, and it's something that is out of our control. It is up to the other MLSs on whether or not they want to offer these products. So we will, again, continue to push on them to be able to offer the same types of products, but there are things that are within our control, and this is definitely one that's not in our control. Next, please. Part of the driving reason behind the data integration was to enable brokers and their agents to be able to display all of the data from all of the MLSs in their IDX feeds for your public property search sites. And it kind of makes sense that if you have access to everything through your MLS, why can't you have all of that data in your IDX feeds? We are making some progress toward that. We are testing actually with at least one vendor to work out some of the bugs. This is something that requires the permission of all of the MLSs who are involved. Some of them are a lot more, I don't want to say, they're restrictive. They're a lot more restrictive, and they don't move as quickly with the collaboration as we would like, but we will continue to push. Next, please. So I'm going to go through 3 slides, and I'm going to go through them relatively quickly. because I didn't want to go into details on each of them. What I wanted to do was to show you that based on the member feedback that we get, and based on the testing that Jesse and Roya do, we have identified plenty of areas where we still need to work. So some of you may have frustrations in some of these areas. You can know that they're on our list, and you can see what the status is. If there are some items, what we're really looking for today is what else is it that we should be or could be doing? What other, whether it's a third-party vendor product or whether it is specific to a field, feature, or functionality of the MLS, we really want to know what's going to make your life easier. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Judy, thanks. Bringing MLS listings, docs, and disclosures into Paragon, that's done through Disclosures.io. MLS listings unit number remapping has been done. Fixing the agent and firm inventory is almost done. We're close to it. Mapping Barris concessions, primary showing and primary phone, done. Add and mapping Quattro and MLS listings, ADU information is done. Quattro new and back on market status done. Fixing the stories field for MLS listings, data done, and then the Quattro 9915 area issue done. Next, please. Coming soon data, that was done. That was a huge project. And again, kudos to Roya and to Jesse. They really were pushing the other MLSs to make this happen. Bringing SUTA Yuba listings into Paragon as MetroList expands its area. We will be adding more and more of their data into the system. Bringing in the SSO entered listings to Paragon from Quattro. Those are the listings that you place directly into the other MLSs. Those had to be imported back into our system. Let's see, showing time link and berries. You know, I'm not going to go through because you get tired of hearing me speak. We will send this presentation. Actually, Judy, you have the presentation. You're welcome to share it. The next slide shows, yes, we will talk about coming soon rules shortly, Kathy. If you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And these are the things that we are working on. As you can see, that's 3 slides of some of the high-level items that were involved in this massive data integration. And I can tell you, even when we've completed this, we will still continue to work on it, because at the end of the day, what we want is, since we can't control the MLSs around us, what we can do is keep fostering more and more collaboration and building that one MLS experience so that you do not have to go outside of your home MLS system to do any business. Everything will be connected to it. And that concludes my update. And I see that we've got 21 comments. I think some of those are questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Roya and Jesse. If we can start working through some of those questions, that would be great.
Sure. As you were presenting, Tricia, I have been answering some of the questions that have been coming in the chat. There were questions about disclosures. Why can't we create a natural field, a neutral field for all the MLSs and have the data source in there? The problem is with that is every MLS uses a different service or a product for disclosures, upload, or input. But the good news is that has been identified with all the 7 MLSs, and we are working toward creating that neutral link, regardless of which product an MLS uses, to bring those disclosures right within the MLS system. Speaking just for Bay East and not the other 7 MLSs, we have mapped the disclosures for all of the MLSs except MLS listings, which uses Docs Central. And that's a whole product separately that they pay for their agents to use that product. But we are working with Docs Central to get access to those disclosures for you too. Let's see what other questions we have here. They love the David Stark stats program. Thank you. We do too. And question is, Tricia, are we looking at expanding the areas for the stats?
So we have expanded more to cover all of Alameda County and Contra Costa County. With regard to the south, which I think is, Sandra, is that what you were referring to, the peninsula area?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't, it's not on the schedule to do, but I love what you say, which is, can we teach you how to do it? So one of the takeaways, Jesse and Roya, is could you meet with David and see if he can put together a tutorial? It is really time consuming to cover hundreds of cities if we did the entire data share area. But if we can't do it outside of our area, it would be great if we could create an easy way for agents to be able to do it.
Thank you. Question about coming soon rules. Can we clarify some of the rules for you? So coming soon status within the MLS. The first thing is you must have a fully ratified listing agreement to put any listings in the MLS, regardless of the status, if it's active or coming soon. So that's the first. Second is coming soon status stays in the MLS for 30 days. If you do not take any action for changing the status from coming soon to active or coming soon to canceled, if no action is taken, the system will automatically flip your listing to coming soon canceled status. And the follow-up question comes, oops, I forgot to extend it. Well, you can't extend coming soon statuses, but you can relist it back. And the easy method to do that is copy and clone it and re-enter it back as a coming soon status. You're still required to upload at least one front exterior photo, even though it's coming soon. The good news that just changed this year is if you add a listing under coming soon, you do not have to submit your SELM forms to us. So if you take a listing agreement and you put it under coming soon within 3 days, prior to that, you had to submit your SELM form. If it's under the coming soon status, you no longer have to submit your SELM form anymore. And last but not least, and I'll take questions if you have in regards to coming soon, is that once a listing is under coming soon, you can publicly advertise that listing as well. Where if you do not have a listing on the MLS, regardless of the active status or coming soon, you cannot publicly advertise it because then you would be in violation of the Clear Cooperation Rule that passed on May 1st of 2020. So I hope that answered some of your questions in regards to coming soon. If you still have some, we're here to answer it for you.
I also saw, let's see, there was a question about Disclosures IO and Homelight. I'm scrolling up. Dave is asking, what is the relationship between Disclosures IO and Homelight? Homelight acquired Disclosures IO, so they are the parent company. I'm not sure there's an additional or follow-up question to that. Maybe Dave, you could post in the chat. And let's see, some other questions that I saw from Heidi. We agents have California DRE numbers. Still, it's impossible to put name and number in our system, the selling agent, when agent is from a different realtor board. Will it be possible soon? And the second part of that is, will the system allow us to get DRE numbers instead of MLS login numbers, which we don't need to know?
So your login ID that we provide for you for the MLS system, it's your NERDS ID, it's your national ID that works with your forms. That's what you need to log in to access your zip forms. So we will not be transitioning to DRE logins. It will be your 2065 or your national number for the MLS login.
Other questions?
One that just came up from Tammy, it seems that Metrolist and Bay East have two different showing times. How do we get them to connect? So it's the same showing time platform. So if you're having some kind of a difficulty, please do contact me, Jesse, our tech support. We can definitely assist you with it, but it's the same product.
So there is a question here. I'm not sure if it's a question or a statement. What's being done to compete with Zillow or Redfin or Redfin? Everything I'm hearing is back office and agent specific. While appreciated, it doesn't address the elephant in the room, which is the next level value-rich client-facing agent branded client-facing version of our Paragon rich information. So we recognize that both Redfin and Zillow are brokerages. And so the data that we provide and the services that we provide are provided to every brokerage and every agent in the same manner. Is there going to be a client-facing portal? Roya, do you want to talk about Client Connect?
Yeah, definitely. There is a client-facing portal. So I bet you're all familiar with the email notification that you have set up to go to your clients. When you're setting up your email notification, there's an option called Collaboration Center. So if you set them up for Collaboration Center, now your clients get access to public-facing information data that you see in Paragon. So they get a client version of Paragon where they can do their own search, they can like their own properties, they can talk to you via Collaboration Center. So do set them up with that. Here's my advice. If you have not used Collaboration Center, set yourself as your client. Go and log in, go through that experience, see what your clients are experiencing so you're familiar with it. And once you play around with it with a day or two, then go set up your clients for Collaboration Center and give them the access to search and like the properties that they do. And we do teach classes on those. And we have videos if you like to watch the videos on how to.
And I have something to add, if you don't mind, on the Collab Center. For the most part, people think that Collab Center is just for buyer agents, but it's actually Collab Center. There's a seller side. So as a listing agent, if you put the listing on Paragon, you can assign that listing and use the seller side, and the system will run comms. Either weekly or monthly, you get to choose, that the system will send email notification to your seller to let them know that what is the market is going on around their neighborhood. It's called the seller side on Collab Center. It's the same process. Instead of doing a search for buyers, you just attach that listing on Paragon to that seller, and off you go.
So maybe Jesse and Roya, do you want to talk a bit about what kind of resources that we have for members who maybe have questions about some of the services and products and may want to get more information through our website?
Yes, definitely. So if you're in, so here's the thing. Different people like different experience. Some people like to attend webinars to learn. Some people like to sit at the leisure of their own home and time and watch videos on the products and services. So on our website, and I hope all of you have bookmarked our website as your favorite, which is bayeast.org. You go in, I see thumbs up, I love that. So you go to bayeast.org under the MLS tab. So anything you want to know about the MLS world is under the MLS tab. When you go in there, so if you're, you know, the type of person I want to watch videos and step-by-step follow it myself, there's a grab and go video section. You go into that grab and go section and it breaks down the MLS system into modules for you, and you select the module that you like to learn about. It gives you information about keys. Where does your key work? And if your key doesn't work, what should you do? It gives you all the tools and benefits that Bay East offers to you, whether it's a member benefit or whether we have signed an agreement with a product or vendor that gives our Bay East members a discount on them. The trainings, if you like a one-on-one training with our trainers, you can schedule a one-on-one training in all the modules and products that we offer. And anytime we do an update to Paragon, we add something, we remove something, there's a section called What's New? And if you click there, it talks about everything that we change in the MLS, all the new items that we bring, all the new products. And the good thing is we tell you why we made the change, why we brought this product, how it can help you in your day-to-day business. So definitely go to bayeast.org and click on the MLS drop-down menu and look around it. The other section that I like you to be familiar with is in Paragon. When you log into Paragon, you know the buttons on top that says listing, CMA, tax. There is a button called resources. If you click on the resources, it gives you every member benefit that we provide to you. And if you log in once, the next time you go in there, it automatically logs you into that system. So you don't have to remember an ID or a password to log in. So go in there, play around with it. And of course, any questions, anything that you like to know more about it, both Jesse and I are here, as well as our tech support that I know all of you love and call all the time.
And if I may add, on Monday, when you get the insider email from Bay East, there's a section called Mls Corner. And I always, pick good things that you guys should know or highlight some tools or quick tips that most agents forgot that we have, and I put it in the Mls Corner. So watch that email in your insider as well.
One of the things that we do, we have a really great system support center. We track all of the calls that come in and we categorize them by the type of calls. That information is then shared with the MLS staff. And Jessie said she's sharing information with you. Oftentimes it's based upon tech support is getting lots of questions on XYZ. So she keeps it really, really current. If you haven't called tech support, they're an amazing group of people. They can solve practically any question. I think that one of the craziest questions we got once was someone called up and they were having problems with their microwave and they wanted assistance with the microwave. And I believe that, I think it was Mark Flavin at the time, one of our systems, he actually helped this member fix or find a way to fix their microwave. So I can't promise that we can do anything that's not directly MLS related, but they really are a very dedicated, great group of people. And the calls that as part of the listening and then acting of our culture, the calls that you have, the questions that you have, we then turn that into, is there a product or a service that we're missing? Or is there a product or service that's not working properly? And then we set about fixing it. So it's, you know, back to Bill. Are there any questions or things that you would like us to be doing differently? Would you like us to start doing, to stop doing, to do better?
So I'm curious because we've had Paragon for a while now. Are we always kind of on the lookout for new MLS technology and stuff? I mean, I know I was served on a task force many years ago on that, but I don't know where MLS technology has been going these days. Are we continually on the lookout for innovations in MLS technology, or are we pretty much in a long-term deal with Paragon at this point? So I haven't heard too much about that recently.
Yeah, great question. We are always on the lookout for new technologies. MLS systems evolve. Here's what we've learned. Agents, well, I shouldn't say agents, people in general don't like change, particularly when it's a technology that's so integrated into their business. So yes, we do stay on the lookout. We're in a great position to constantly put pressure on our MLS vendor. It's a company called Black Knight. I believe they are the largest MLS vendor in the country. And as our contracts come up for review, we start looking about 18 months before the end of the contract to see if there's other technology out there, and to take a look at what the roadmap is of the current vendor, if they head in the same direction that we want to go in. So, you know, it's not as easy as saying, I want to change my phone carrier from AT&T to Verizon. Because, as I mentioned, at the level of integration, we understand that if we were to make a switch, it would impact not just every agent, but every broker who's relying on whether it's themselves or another company to provide that back office platform that is data driven from the MLS. The other complication is sometimes we're a victim of our own success. The more we can expand that data share, the more effort that goes into being able to do all that data mapping and data integration, the harder it is to switch to a completely new MLS system that doesn't have any of those integrations, or that won't integrate back into, because our data is being integrated back into Metrolist's Rapatoni and MLS listings systems. So it became the more we can expand those collaborations, the more difficult it is to switch vendors. But that being said, we still put a ton of pressure on Black Knight to keep that Paragon system evolving.
The other thing is, I think, and you guys maybe can speak to this, having to do with the whole concept of the coming soon principle and the whole clear cooperation principle that NAR came out with. I think, unfortunately, that I think everybody's intent was and heart was in the right place, but it seems to me, and I don't know if you guys are getting these complaints, that that system may be getting a bit abused. And the fact that, okay, we can comply because we now have this special category on the MLS that talks about coming soon, but the level of frustration that I obviously hear, and I think we've talked about this before, is that some of these listings truly never really see the light of day on what you would call the normal open active type market. They end up going off market, you know, prematurely, so to speak. And the whole idea that the preemptive offer and stuff, and I know Roy has said something about them being able to stay on as coming soon status for 30 days, which to me seems like a long time to be in, quote, coming soon status. Well, to some degree, it's almost like, why even have that type of status? Is the implication on coming soon that the property can't be shown? And I guess I'm a little confused, and I hear the frustration from agents. Again, I think the clear cooperation policy was probably very well intentioned, but I think some of the unintended consequences that are coming out of this are coming from the fact that you have this new coming soon status in the MLS to technically get around the fact that, okay, we're on the MLS. So I'm not sure if I'm making total sense here, but I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, in fact, so Roya, if you want to jump in, and then I have some comments as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for bringing that up, Bill. So we have had coming soon status way before Clear Cooperation. I think even 2 years before the Clear Cooperation rule came into place. And we didn't hear much about it. But once the Clear Cooperation, the mandatory, so it's a mandatory NAR Clear Cooperation rule. So it's not like we had an opt-out in it. So once that mandatory NAR rule kicked into place that says if you're going to publicly market a listing, you have to have it into the MLS within 1 business day, that's where we start hearing about the item that Bill is referencing to is the coming soon property available to be shown or not to be shown, or some agents out there are abusing it. Our MLS committee has reviewed it a few times, and then CAR put a task force together to come up for a recommendation to NAR in regards to a rule change. And that task force, to make a long story short, when they had all their discussions and they came back, it wasn't a rule that was going to go to NAR, but they came up with some bullet points of recommendations that the MLSs can use in that. So we were actually hopeful that CAR will come up with a rule that NAR will approve and it will be standardized throughout. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. However, I can tell you this, that the recommendations that the CAR task force put together, and our MLS committee chair was on that task force as well. We will be taking back those recommendations to our committee and re-reviewing our rules to see how we can update that. And one of the recommendation that we're going to re-review, Bill, is whether our coming soon listings will be available to be shown or not shown when it's under that status. So whatever that committee decides, that information will be disseminated back to all our members.
So I want to add, so here's the complication. When we did this massive data integration, we also standardized our MLS rules. And because you don't want to do business in another area and find out that you're in violation of a rule that's something that's permissible in your own MLS. So as we look at things like coming soon, we have to standardize. We're trying to standardize coming soon rules to the greatest extent possible, because if you've got another MLS's data in your system and you're not quite sure what the rules are, is it our rule? Is it the MetroList rule? I think with MetroList, their rules apply if a listing is put in their jurisdiction, their geographic boundary. For the other MLSs, our rules apply. So getting collaboration on these standard ways of implementing coming soon is really important. So, as I listen to this, I keep hearing, oh, it's coming, or we can't do this because of other MLSs. That's so frustrating for all of you. I understand that. And I wish I could change it. The best that we can do is to continue to be your voice at the table when we are working with the other MLSs, to encourage them to see things our way, and it's not always going to work. The coming soon, I can tell you, is a huge point of frustration within the state of California. One, as Roy said, even within the state, we could not get consensus. There are some people who like the way it is, and there are some people who hate the way it is. At the national level, there was an attempt at the recent NAR meetings to make a change in the coming soon rule, and it was resoundingly defeated. The rest of the country seems to really like the coming soon clear cooperation rules. So we're a bit of an outlier in California, and particularly in the Bay Area. So for as many people who are frustrated by it, there's many people who like it.
Yeah, I think it's a product of the market. I think when the market either levels off or slows down, there'll probably be a lot less frustration with the coming soon piece. But I think right now the level of frustration is when you get into a hot market like ours, that's where the frustration lies for most folks. Because again, the whole point here is to try to maximize the amount of cooperation we're going to have. But the coming soon here, again, like I said, I think everything was well intentioned with a clear cooperation policy, but I think agents here have kind of abused it a bit in the fact that, you don't know when an offer is going to be presented. And that kind of almost begs another question about the whole preemptive offer, because I think there was a time at one point where Bay East had something had to do with preemptive offers, because I remember getting something on that. I think that policy may have changed, but the issue right now is you have these due dates, but then this reservation clause for preemptive offers, and nobody seems to be able to get a straight answer, on that. And I don't know if you guys are still thinking about revisiting that issue again, or maybe you can, Roya, share what's the policy right now on that, and then if you guys are looking at potentially revisiting that.
Sure. We actually did revisit it in our May MLS committee meeting because the topic came up at one of the marketing meetings. So let me tell you what it was prior. Prior to the current rule, we had an MLS rule, and it was a Bay East rule. It was not an NAR rule. It was not a CAR rule. It was a Bay East rule that we had created that said that if you're going to put an offer date and time in the MLS, and if that date and time changes, you had to update the new date and time 24 hours prior to give notification to everyone. And a discussion on that rule came about at another marketing meeting when I was presenting this rule. And there was a discussion, and it brought up a lot of questions. And what we did was we went to the CAR and NAR legal attorneys and asked them question, hey, the rule that we have, is it problematic? And we recently did it again, went to NAR and CAR attorneys. And the answer to both from the head of CAR legal and head of NAR legal came back and said, yes, that rule that Bay East had was problematic because the seller always has a right to accept an offer, regardless of the seller telling you, I don't want to see all offers till Friday at 5 or Friday at noon. They have a right to accept an offer. Based on that, we had to revise our rule that says that if a seller, so the current rule now is, and it's very in line with the California Association of Realtors model rules and NAR model rules is that if a seller tells you they do not want to see an offer, whatever date, let's just say Friday at 5, that you as an agent must get it in writing from them. And you have to clearly and accurately put that information in the MLS in the confidential remarks. However, the rule still goes on to say, by you putting that date and time in the MLS, that does not take away the rights from the seller to accept an offer prior to that date and time. So that's what was okayed by NAR and CAR legal attorneys for our rules now. So they saw a big problem with saying you can't accept an offer unless you change that time prior.
So Roya, let me ask you then on that, what you just put there, do we then not need to have a are you saying we don't have to have a reservation clause in the confidential remarks that says the seller reserves the right to take a preemptive? So it sounds like what you're saying is that even if I have a date in there and my seller wants to accept something prior to that with no notice to anybody that, hey, we can do that, we can do it. Or do we have to have that reservation clause?
You can have it or you cannot have it. There is no specific items within the rule that you have to say offer is Friday at 5. However, seller reserves the right to accept an offer. A lot of agents do put that information there, but if you don't, it does not mean that you're violating any of the MLS rules.
Well, that's good to know. I think most people are not aware of that. I know I wasn't aware of that.
Well, now you're going to tell every agent in your office.
Now they know.
So, and Jesse, I think you have your next MLS Corner item for next week.
Great input. I don't know if there may be some more questions out there, but thanks you guys. I appreciate those answers.
Can I ask something? You know, Jesse and I QA the system on a weekly basis to find, you know, bugs or ways to improve the system. But you guys are the practitioners. You use it day in and day out. So if you see something, or if you say, hey, if the system did this, it would be so much better, please shoot us an email and we will work with our MLS vendor to make that happen. Now, there will be times that we'll come back to you and say, sorry, we can't do it because of technology issues, but we would love to hear from you how we can improve the system way more.
The other thing that we do with your questions is, I would say most of the time, the questions that were asked or requests, we wish the system did X, Y, or Z, it actually does. But because it's constantly evolving and being updated, you may not have been aware of an update like 6 months ago or whatever that's doing what it is that you would like it to do. So from those questions, we're able to glean what kind of communications we need to send out to our members. So I guarantee if you don't know it, then probably most of our members don't know it. And that's one of the obstacles that we have to overcome as technology gets updated on, I don't know, it seems like a monthly basis at the very least. So let us know your questions. No question is dumb. We learn from your questions.
Okay.
And it helps us to do.
Any other questions in the chat bar that we haven't addressed yet?
No other questions that I saw.
I see a lot of opinions. And we're not going to get into anything that could take us into antitrust territory.
No,
so
I think we'll stay away from that stuff.
I've been ignoring those questions.
So, okay. Well, hey, I definitely, if there's no other questions, I definitely appreciate Tricia, Roy, and Jesse taking the time. I think this was very, very productive. I think most people on this, including myself, always learn something, you know, on these calls. And, you know, again, I think a lot of stuff that you guys are working on that I saw that were pending on your plate are good. The school stuff I think is critical, always has been. So, yeah, I just eventually, hopefully we can do something with the lock boxes. I think that is the next natural thing to happen to get everybody where they can, you know, you don't have to worry about getting a special fob or this or that, where we can have lockbox stuff. I remember years ago, you know, when I was involved, lockboxes were an issue then, and I guess they're still an issue now. So, but things have definitely gotten better. Tricia knows for years I was an advocate of single point of entry, et cetera, and it looks like we finally are getting there. So it took a while, but hey, you know, at least I got to see it.
Well, thank you for your patience, Bill. Thank you for your leadership. You really have been there at defining moments. We negotiated a super agreement together back, I think it was 2002, wow. 2001, 2002. Yeah. So it has been a long time. I saw someone post, could we do this more frequently? we are available to you whenever you would like us to come out. So Bill or Judy, if you want to coordinate with Roya or Jesse, I can tell you that they can do a way deeper dive into the rules and into the system features, because they eat, live, and breathe this every day, and it's not a 9 to 5. I can text them at 6 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon or morning, and they will respond to me. So we're truly here to help you be successful, and let us know. Oh, someone wants to talk about the reopening? Sure, real quickly. On Monday, yesterday, we opened the doors for members to come in and access the store, pay bills. We're doing a very slow reopening. Some of our committee meetings will be starting up. So it's not just curbside service. I'm hoping that by the end of August, we'll be able to do even more things like computer. I think beginning of August, we're going to do computer repair only. So look for information in the Insider. It comes out every Monday, and you will see a link to how you can schedule computer repair appointments. But yeah, I'm back in the office. We've got about half the staff is back, and it's a very exciting thing to be able to see everyone's faces in person.
Well, hey, I can't thank you guys enough for a great presentation today. I think this was very, very informative, and we will definitely be having you guys back. So thanks again for all your time, Tricia, Roya, and Jesse today. It was great.
Thank you, Bill, and happy belated birthday.
Same to you, dear.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.